The best way to drive urgency is to help your customer uncover a critical event. A critical event means that if they don't solve by a certain time, something bad happens to the organization. Usually, we get this confused with a compelling event. And it's oftentimes that our customer will tell us that our solution is a nice to have. So down here on the priority list, we're going to put this as the nice to have. This is the friend zone of our relationship. What we want to make sure that we try and uncover is the must have. We need to understand why this could be critical for our customer's business. Now, in the middle, we might have this need or want or something in the middle that maybe that pushes over the line, maybe it doesn't. But ultimately, what we know is that over time, our solution will have a different priority to our customer. Sometimes it's going to be critical, and sometimes if they don't solve it, they can go another couple months without solving it. But what we need to look at is this threshold and try and map to things that actually mean something to our customer. This is what you need to do when uncovering a critical event. Anytime your customer brings up the idea of some sort of timeline, like, hey, Dan, I need this solution by end of January. When they give you a date like this, I want you to ask two questions. The first one, why January? What's going on at the end of the January? What is leading you to want to have a solution by that date? Now, built into this question, you're going to hear how they're prioritizing it. Oh, we have an SKO coming up. We have a new product launch. We're opening up a new office or hiring a new executive. These can all be potential reasons why that date is critical. But the next step that you need to ask, and this is the real foundation to getting down to the critical event, is asking, what happens if you miss? Now, if they answer this question by saying, oh, we haven't had a solution for the last 3 months, waiting another couple months, no big deal. But if that means that this is going to be on this nice to have range. So what happens if you miss that date? The answer to that question will tell you how they're currently prioritizing. If it's a nice to have, we know that they're deprioritizing it. They're making it low. No big deal. But if they come back to you and say, well, if I don't get this in place by the end of January, I might lose my job. Or this product won't release on time, so our customers will be frustrated. We might lose some higher value customers. That means that this is a critical event to your customer. Now, the mistake a lot of us make in sales is that we think our event is a critical event. Oh, our quota is coming up at the end of the month or the end of the quarter. If you sign now, I'll give you a discount. This is traditionally what we've done to try and create a critical event. But I don't think you can create one. I think that customers always just care about themselves. Sure, a discount might be nice to have, but they will never buy your solution just to do you a favor of helping you hit quota. And I know that might come as a surprise, but this is the critical thing that we need to do in customer-centric sales. Always make it about our customer's timeline. Focus on what they are trying to achieve. So in order to do that, we need to have a couple critical events that we try and uncover. Some common ones that you may come across are going to be fiscal year ending. Budget cycles are up. Maybe that also goes into quarters. A new product launch, a new office, a new executive. These are all potential reasons why a customer might be acting now. But if I'm selling security and I realize that one of my competitors just got hacked or just got breached, that can also be a great indicator for me by saying, wow, we are using similar security solutions, and if it's not working for our competitors, we need to work on it for ourselves because we cannot afford a breach or a HIPAA violation. These all can be critical events when we map it back to a negative impact. So even though the time shift might change, we can focus to things that might be helpful for our customers to solve before disaster happens. So when you're trying to apply this, realize that the best thing to do is to sell after a customer has gone through a really negative experience and realized that if they don't solve it, layoffs will happen. Something bad will happen. So when you're trying to sell it before the next critical event happens, they have already lived through a really bad experience and know they don't want to deal with that again. Make sure you try and uncover that with your customers. And when all is said and done, realize that their critical event is why they will buy your solution. They want to achieve impact by a certain time. So work backwards from their timeline. If you're trying to get this by end of January, typically legal and procurement take about 2 weeks to read over the contract, so that puts us back into middle January. There'll be some implementation time where you'll need about a week to onboard your team, so that's that first week of January, and given that there's a lot of holidays coming up, it might make sense for us to start this compliance or start this contract initiation and get it signed by end of December to make sure that we have everything up and running by your deadline of January 31st. What we've done is now create a critical event timeline, worked backwards from what they're trying to achieve instead of focusing on what we as the salesperson or trying to drive growth are trying to achieve. And when you treat critical events like this, your customers will realize that you're just trying to help them solve a problem. You're not going to come across salesy. You have a great solution that will solve their problem on the timeline that they need. Help them get across the finish line.